Service Power Plant Network. Welcome to Monday night. Tonight is a special night. Look who's on. Carolyn, are you kidding me? It was so good to see you at NAFM. Yes, looking forward to it, Carolyn. I'm glad you're here. This is amazing. I'm going to throw on, I'm a little bit of a cardigan guy, and my wife had gotten me this, and tonight's just going to be cardigan night for a whole host of reasons. And I've got some special shoes that we're going to take off in a minute. You'll understand why. We're going to have a little fun with our guest, Michael Keck. Michael, I've been waiting for this conversation for about 2 years, and I know many of you have, knowingly or unknowingly as well. We'll talk about that. Michael is one of my favorite people in the industry, one of the most authentic and genuine. He's experienced some wonderful success. He's the president of Concept Services. He was most recently in a volunteer role, the chairman of the board of FIDA during the COVID years, and did a marvelous job along with Tracy and team and the board navigating the challenge that was. And he's one of my favorite people to talk to. And we're going to have a blast getting to know his story tonight. So as a reminder, always, hi, Michael and Jason. Hi. You know what I'm going to do? I am going to pull up Facebook real quick so I can try to see people. And let me do this, turn my sound off. I will try to find you. If you're on Facebook, by the way, you can go to StreamYard/Facebook and enter your name. Oh, it's Christina down in Texas. Hi, Christina. And you can certainly will see your name there. Looking forward to tonight. We're glad to see you. Hey, a couple shout outs. First of all, you know that these food service power plant conversations with industry leaders wouldn't happen without the support of people who believe in this mission of that success leaves clues, that story creates the power of belief, and that our leader stories matter. Thank you to Zumba Group, to Maureen and Dave and Joe and the entire crew over there, Nick and Renee and everybody. So many wonderful people who believe in this message and support us. Thank you to the Crave team who's built our website. If you haven't seen it, all of our conversations are there. fspowerplant.com/blog, VLOG. Go check that out. And if you need marketing services, social media support, website, etc., go talk to Chelsea and Eric and the team at Crave. They're amazing. If you are watching us on LinkedIn, and I know many people will be, just know that we have a Facebook group. The Food Service Power Plant Network is a community on Facebook. We've got about 2,200 people. If you're on Facebook, go search us out. Don't go to the page, go to the group, and we'll welcome you in. Hello. It's great to see you. I love it. And then lastly, if you want, we send an email out before every Monday morning, Monday Mindset emails to pump you up, get you ready, give you some perspective. Email me if you want, or put a note in the group or in the messaging, and we'll get you added to that email list if you'd like. Tonight's going to be a blast. Let's go find our friend Michael Keck. Michael!
Good evening. How you doing?
I'm awesome. How are you?
Everything's going well. Looking forward to this.
Well, we are too. This conversation is 2 years in the making. And when we would connect, I think we connected, maybe, I don't know if it was at the the NAFM annual meeting, but we connected along the way, and I was trying to get you on. You and I have worked together for years in various capacities. And there was an anxiety because not an anxiety for me. You had said, I can't do it yet. I can't do it yet. While you were the chairman of the board of FIDA, you're such an authentic guy, and you're so honest that there was this idea that let's wait till I'm done. So if I say the wrong thing or I speak my mind, I don't want it to be attributed to anyone else other than me.
Well, yeah. I mean, during the FIDA term, I just wanted to be as respectful as I can be to the organization. And I know how I can be if I'm going to be having a conversation with a friend. And I clearly I would never say anything to ever do any harm.
Yeah.
But I also committed to Tracy that I would never curse during the entire time that I spoke live in any of the presentations. And I told her that I would always be as honorable and respectful to the position as I could. So I wanted to make sure if we're going to do a candid conversation that it stays candid. Certainly the FIDA thing is not off limits. I'd love to talk about it. And because it really was, you're going to get somewhere along the way to the highlights of the career, but that I loved it. I loved it. I loved it to death, even though it was really challenging.
I love that you did. And I'm sure Tracy appreciated this, and I do too. I love that you're willing to come on as you. This is our friend Deirdre Flynn. Looking forward to the conversation. Hi, Dee. Our buddy Dwayne Guidry, with Crane, one of the Craniacs himself. Good evening, Jason Michael. Looking forward to this one. We are glad you're here. Angel is in the house. Hey, Angel, preach it, man. Love it. Taz, Monday Night Food Bowl. Boom. Well played. Well played. Now that we're not competing with that anymore. Hi, Mylene. How are you? Michael, listen, for you're many people in our industry on our conversation know you, but for those who don't, can you give us a brief synopsis about your career journey and kind of how you got to be the president of Concept Services and chairman of the board of FIDA for those last few years?
Well, sure. I mean, it does become interesting. I mean, it all depends on how far back you want to go. I mean, when I started at Concept Services, we wrote purchase orders on triplicate paper and mailed them to place an order. So
what, like a white copy, pink copy, yellow copy, and the three went different places?
Yeah, the yellow copy stayed with me. The white copy went to out, and the pink copy went to Linda so she could pay it.
Love it.
I was the fifth person hired there. So we had a small little group. The University of Nebraska had requested that I not come back to school, in large part probably due to some performance issues that I might have had that they recognized as something that wasn't necessarily in line with the institution itself. I remain a devoted Nebraska football fan, but they asked me to continue my life elsewhere, and I obliged. And in 1989, Amy and I got married. I was 21, Amy was 20, and I was working in a clothing store during the day, and I was a bartender at night. I had no idea where my life was going. College dropout, came from a small community of 1,000 people up in Northeast Nebraska. I was working in a clothing store, and what I thought was an old man came up and was standing outside the door. We got paid commission, and I was talking to him, and he was just waiting for his wife while she was shopping for a wedding gift for a friend. And while she was gone long enough that I sold him $300 worth of clothes. And about an hour later, he comes back and he hands me his card and says, would you be interested in allowing me to introduce you to somebody? Because I can tell I recognize that you have some sales skills. And the person that he wanted to introduce me to was Hal Schroeder, who was in Austin, Texas. And I took his card, and I remember walking back into our apartment, and I took this card and I just flipped it. And we had this little secretary's desk. And I remember in that back corner, it just stuck there like you couldn't have put it there better. And I remember looking at it going, that's cool. Said nothing to Amy. Walk in the house, do my thing, and thought nothing of it. 2 days later, the phone rings at the where I was working, and it was Hal Schroeder, and he invites me down to come down for an interview. I go home and I tell Amy about this. She's like, "You're going." I'm like, "All right, I'll go." I mean, when am I ever going to get on an airplane the rest of my life?
Wow.
So I flew down there, and I thought he was going to get one look at me, send me home. I could tell everybody that my friends that I went to Texas and, living the dream and go back to whatever it is the hell I thought I was going to do. Instead, he said, when can you start?
Wow.
So a couple of weeks later, Amy and I loaded everything up that fits in the smallest trailer that you can rent from U-Haul, and brought in our entire life down here to Texas. And I came to work for Hal, and I worked for him for about 2.5 years, and he fired me. So, and I needed to be fired. I was young. I was 21 years old. I didn't know what was going on. I could say the same thing about our company at that time in 1989, 90, 91. We were young. We didn't know exactly what we were going on. the company that I was working for was not the organization that we are now. But 2.5 years later, I came back. I went to work at the Texas Senate, finished up the session in 1995, and I didn't want to stay in the political side of the deal, although I do like politics. But I wanted to do something, and I had 60 days of comp time built up. And I thought, I'm going to figure it out. I was telling Amy, I'm going to put the resume together. I'm going to get my life on the line. I'm going to figure out what my career is going to be. Well, I still had a friend of mine, Matt Hamilton, who still worked in Don Hawkins, still working at Concept Services. They knew that I was done and available. They sine died out on a Thursday. I was in Hal's office, or I was at the office working in Concept Services the following Monday.
Wow.
And I came back and I was a project manager, and I started working on the second or third store of the Einsteins that they ever built. Saw that through. And then time kept going by, and I came up when Boston Market and Einsteins went away. I had the choice of continuing to be a account manager, or Hal said, you can go back into sales if you want to. And I chose the sales route. And I don't know how many years later, I don't keep track of these milestone dates very well, but at some point along the way, I became the president of Concept Services. And then several years later, a couple of years, Tracy Mulqueen tricked me into being the chairman of the board of FIDA. And it was the best trick ever. I loved it.
That is an amazing story. I love, you and I have talked about this before, and the whole point of these conversations is that it's easy for us in the industry to look at industry leaders, presidents of organizations, all the wonderful roles, chairperson of FIDA, and we make assumptions on what journeys look like, and those assumptions are often incorrect. I love when people are fired, and when they afterwards say, and you know what, I probably deserved it. That was good that happened for me. I needed to learn something, whatever it is. And I came back, and here I am. And I love that you were fired from a food service equipment dealer, and you went to work in the Texas Senate.
Well, that was just dumb luck, but it was a cool job. I got to tell George Foreman that he couldn't come onto the Senate floor, and his entourage were trying to push by, and George Foreman stands up and says, the man's doing his job. We're going to wait out here like he says. And then I stood out there and talked to George Foreman out the front, standing out there in the front doors of the Texas Senate. Amazing. I saw some very, very cool stuff. I saw how the sausage was made. I watched senators sitting in the back of the chamber, and they were out there yelling and screaming at each other out there on the floor. And then they were making dinner reservations and getting their families together that night.
Wow.
I was there when Lieutenant Governor Bullock, who is, for anybody in Texas knows, is he's an icon, and he retired that year. And there might have been one person that worked in the Senate Sergeant at Arms office that might have made off with a pretty cool relic from that place, that person might still keep it kind of under glass somewhere. And it's pretty cool. So I have a little memorabilia from it was a cool time. And it was also a reflection time for me, because that was a grown-up job. Yeah. And I saw grown-up things happening. And that was really kind of the beginning of it. And when I got fired from when Hal cut me loose, I walked out of there thinking I didn't know anything. I realized working in that next 2.5 year span that what I had learned at Concept Services that I did not realize I had learned a lot. Yeah. In large part about how to deal with people. So when I came back the next time, I got to learn more about how the structure of the industry works. What does the customer need? How are we going to be able to facilitate what they need? And I started to learn more, but the people part of it at a young age, I was beginning to get a pretty good grip on it.
Well, I love the things. It is funny when we step out of something, what we recognize we did learn. It's hard to see. Someone once said, maybe it was you that told me this, it's hard to read the label of the can from inside.
Somebody smarter than me. That's a good one.
From inside the can, right? And sometimes when you're in it, it takes getting out to really be able to see what's going on. And that's a relatable quote in a lot of areas of our life. Having mentors, having, counselors or people looking outside at us, because we often can't see what's going on. But same is true of you as you went to do something new. An aha moment. Michael, was there an aha moment as it relates to?
Well, look, I'm going to be the first one to tell you I'm a bit of a slow learner, so I had several aha moments over my life. I mean, I'm 34 years minus 2.5. I'm not good with math because I got to always blot that out. But I've been around this industry for a long time, and I'm having aha moments all the time. I mean, if you really want to get to the aha moment, I promise we'll get to it, but it's probably going to take a little while because Jason has a bunch of questions. For anybody who's going to be on this thing, I want everybody to know something. He gets a hold of you and he starts telling you kind of what you're going to ask or what he's going to ask. So you get a little prep time, but it ain't enough. So we're still going to go with this, but we'll get to it because there's going to be several, because there's, life isn't just one act. So as I go through the process, and I'm still going through the process, I'm still learning things. It's still something. So I've had a lot of them. I mean, I've had some freaky things come out, and we'll see if we get to some of those, but I know we only got 45 minutes or so, but
that's all right, Michael. You can go with whatever. Let's. I'm going to go to this one real quick. Tomorrow's Valentine's Day. Before you and I went live, your bride, Amy, walked in the room real quick and talk about two things as it relates to Valentine's Day. 34 years of marriage is a long time. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Talk about, in food service, we're on planes and trains and automobiles all the time. We're going all these places, making calls. Particularly when you've got young families, that experience can be a challenge to navigate all of that and have your spouse feel supporting, you're paying attention, and everyone working together amidst the chaos of what life can feel like. I don't know, anything you've learned in those 34 years that you would give advice to anybody? Or?
Well, I'll tell you a story and see if you can get some advice out of that. When Amy and I got married, we got married up in Nebraska. Both of us were small little towns. She was 13. Her town was 13 miles away. She lives in a town of 1,000 people. I met her when I had gone to that school that I was telling you about that didn't like me, but they hadn't caught on yet. And I had gone back for the summer for my summer work, and I met her. My buddy, my best friend, set us up on a blind date. And he led with some lies. Turns out that she was a little more pure than he so we had to get married. Not for that, but it was a blind date, and a couple of years later we decided to get married, and then we moved because, like I said, we got married in February 11th. So, this is a big weekend. February 11th is our 34th anniversary. Little side note, we had Christmas because there was a COVID deal. So we left the tree up and had the kids come over this weekend for Christmas. So we opened presents yesterday, or I'm sorry, Saturday night. But we had to move, and we didn't realize that the move was that big of a deal, because when you're that young, we look back, and I'm almost sure of it. I can't ever be certain, but I'm pretty sure we probably wouldn't be married, because when we moved 1,000 miles away, I left my running buddies and my friends who were influence factors, and Amy moved away from her parents, which would have been an influencing factor. And we didn't have anybody to go to solve our problems.
Yeah.
We had to solve them ourselves. So we were learning at a tender age. Not at the time we didn't see the beauty in the education that we were getting, but certainly looking back, when you have to solve your own problems and deal with your own mess, you don't get to blame a lot of other people for things. You have to own what's going on, and we had to own a lot of it. I mean, I spent a lot of years coming home. Next quarter, baby, it's coming. Next quarter, everything's going to be great.
Yeah.
a lot of years, and she hung in there, and all the travel and everything. She's awesome. She's absolutely awesome, and to put up with this character, for people that know me, that's a big bite in more ways than one.
I have a feeling you both have a lot of fun. It's just, I mean, Amy and I have met a couple times at different conferences or shows, and I have a feeling you have a lot of fun. I'm sure it's not easy, and we all have relationships that we're working through, we're growing, but I hope you do. But hey, if you're joining us, welcome to the Food Service Power Play Network. We have Michael Keck on. Michael's the president of Concept Services. We're talking about love right now and marriage, the reason we gather together today. Michael, the second Valentine's Day, love. Tell me what you love about the food service industry. What is it about food service that you love?
It's the part that ties right into the love part. It's the relationships. It is absolutely unequivocally the relationship business. The people will go out there and they'll give sage advice as to never burn any bridges. That's elementary learning in this industry. I would tell people, do everything you can to help people be better. Build the bridges where you don't see them right now, because in this place is for it. When we did the FIDA conference, one of the things I wanted is to get Guy Fieri up and speak, not because, and I told Tracy that. She was kind of surprised. She looks at me and goes, Guy Fieri, why? I said, I don't want the character. I don't want the guy who is the guy who does guys grocery games. I want the guy that people probably don't know about. And I learned a little bit from a documentary he did on COVID, and I was just blown away by what the message was, and how the industry was just in pain. And when you see that, and you see the relationships and the people that are working, and how much the operators care for their own people and how much they care for their customers, and we're serving that community. I wanted him to come and tell that story, and he did a fantastic job. I also think that we have what I would call a very noble industry, and the industry kind of gets a bad rap. If you think about it, we've got multi-million-dollar CEOs running multi-billion-dollar companies, and at one end of the spectrum, and we own the one job that a lot of people use as the worst job in the world. And when they try to figure out what is a bad job, they'll say, well, that don't want to be a dishwasher. We got that one too, and everything in between. We've got technology, we've got manufacturing, we got sales, we got accounting, we got websites and marketing and strategy. This industry has it all. There is a space in here for everyone, and it's an incredibly noble industry. And I struggled with that a little bit when I'm down here in Austin, Texas, and I'd go to dinner parties, and over here would be an attorney, and over here would be a tech executive working at Dell, or then this and that, and then come to me and go, what do you do? And I'm going, well, I play a little part in making the world a better place to eat. And for a while, I didn't have a grasp of what it is, but we're making a difference. We at every level. And then when you see that everybody's kind of in the same bucket, those relationships are easily made, because we're all trying to accomplish something very similar. And I saw that at FIDA, and how closely the SFESA and the MOFSIs and the NAFMs and the FCSIs and all of us, we're all tied together, and we have a lot more in common, especially COVID. COVID really brought it about, and then the ensuing supply chain disaster.
Yeah.
And when it was easily recognizable that without the collaboration, it moved past cooperation. It moved into collaboration in working together, whether it was the service side of it, and make sure you treat your service guys, because there's not very many of them, and you need them when you need them. And I think that the nice guys will get what they look before the bad ones do. And the manufacturing side, trying to understand as much as I could about the manufacturing side and what they were going through, so I could take that message and take it back to my customers, so I could be educated enough to explain to them what really is going on. I tell my customers, look, if I had it, I'd deliver it to you tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I can't get it, but let me tell you why. And I didn't blame the manufacturers. I told them I did my ever loving best to try to tell my customers their story
Yeah.
and what we were up to. Well, let's just go get another manufacturer. It's the same. They're in the same boat. You can't do that. It's not going to help you. We can try this and we can try that, and we'll put band-aids on things and try to stop the bleeding. But it took a large group of people to come together to do that, and I hope that continues.
It's everything I see in getting to talk to different folks in all 5 families seems that I think everyone appreciated that experience. I mean, we often learn about each other, and there's gifts in pain if we look for them, and there
Absolutely.
can be, right? And I think that was one of the gifts of that pain was everyone coming together. Everyone was hurt by it. Everyone realized we've got to do this together and understand our roles and tell the same story, an honest story, an authentic story in order to get the messaging out to our clients. And I don't see it going away. Michael, you as well are willing to tell stories. It's all about trust. And you're not afraid to tell an honest story, to say, listen, I don't have it. If I did, I would, and you're not going to get it from someone else. I wish you could. If you can, I'm going to do everything I can. But that authenticity, for whatever reason, I think there's a fair amount of the population that, fakes it till they maybe sometimes don't make it. And that creates mistrust and lack of connection. But it's something that was that something you learned, to be authentic with what's going on? Is that something you really, you told a fib one day, realized that was the wrong way to go? I'm just going to tell the truth again. Or have you just kind of been a straight shooter?
No, I mean, yes, I mean, absolutely. I learned it. It was a tough lesson. I'll make a confession that I don't, not because I'm keeping secrets, it just doesn't come up. But the thing that I remember one time in my very early part of my career, and this was after I came back, this was post firing. I remember telling somebody that I don't need people to help me. So I guess I don't remember the gentleman's name that asked about an aha moment. I guess this would be one of them.
Yeah, Dean.
And in that period of time when I was in a very selfish spot, where I thought I was the one that was going to solve everything and I could be the one that could fix it. About every time that I put up 2 bricks, one would fall down. And I didn't know it at the time. I mean, I could see that there was things wrong. I was struggling by just keeping project managers. And at the time I started surrounding myself with, the story's going to become really long, but it's going to tie into so many things. But I had a neighbor who moved in. He was a Christian man. My wife grew up Christian. My family's, I went to Bible school and my mom and dad sent us over for a week summer vacation at my grandma's place in Bloomfield. And then that was my walk with God during those years. But I had a friend of mine who was a Baptist, and that's what I found out. I'm like, geez, this ain't going to work out. I like drinking beer and having fun. Well, it turns out that Baptists drink at home here in Texas. So that was cool. And we became really, really good friends. And he was incredibly instrumental in helping me come into the faith. So, and he's one of my best friends. I was just up to his mother's memorial service a couple of weeks ago and got to see him again. And we love each other. And we've had a similar path. He was working at Western States, which is a fire suppression company. He didn't graduate from high school or college. He went AWOL he went into Panama and came out. He had a lot of baggage. Both of us were kind of in the same spot coming up in the ranks. And turns out about the same time that I became president of Concept Services, he became the president of Western States. It was a cool story, but we were learning so much because it started opening doors. And he introduced me to a mentor, and he was a business and spiritual mentor. And I was starting to tell Mac about this situation I'm having with all these people. Where in the hell do you find somebody that will work for you and give you? And this was going on for several weeks or months. And then finally one day Mac says, I met with him and he goes, here's what I'm going to need you to do. I'm going to need you to go home tonight, get a good night's sleep. When you wake up tomorrow, when you're brushing your teeth, he said, I want you to look up in the mirror. And he said, and your problem you will become very aware of your problem.
Wow.
and he left it at that. And that's when there was an aha moment in there that led me to start reading and experiencing new things, opening my mind up to different thoughts. It was a process, and it continues to be one, but that was kind of really the beginnings of understanding what servant leadership looks like. I was learning about that. We were studying that. There's a gentleman's name, Robert Greenleaf, wrote this little pamphlet called The Servant Leader, and I read it, and I'm like, my goodness, this thing is amazing. And then I keep giving it away, and I lose it, and it's out of print, and I have to find it. And I think I have some copies, but I don't know where they are. But it's on servant leadership, and it just spelled it out in about how. And I was not that leader. I was a carrot or a stick, or I didn't have it right. And when I realized that what you do is you give the people that you work with and work for, and the people that work for you, what they need. Doesn't always mean what they want, but what they need, and you serve them. It's also led to a mantra: never hand anybody a brick wall. I don't ever want to do that. If I have somebody call in and they're saying, "Hey, I'd like to know if you guys would be willing to put a bid in," I'd say, it's not where we work. I appreciate you calling, but I think I know somebody you might. Would you mind if I give somebody a call and I'll turn around and I will, instead of saying I don't do it, see you later, I'll call somebody and say, "Hey, you guys interested in doing this? These guys are looking for this kind of work." And so, yeah, if you don't hand people brick walls and you stay open to conversation, it was things that I wasn't doing, and it really changed a lot.
Wow, your willingness when faced with the reality of our own, I don't know if failure is the word, but when sometimes it's hard to realize at times we're the problem, and or that we can be, and it's hard for people to own that. Yet in owning it is the path forward. I mean, you were willing when you looked in the mirror that night because your buddy told you, look in the mirror when you're brushing your teeth. That changed you. And that changed you, one, because he had the guts to tell you that as your friend, but two, because you had the guts to listen. You could have said, the heck with that guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm Michael Keck. So I guess I would just say thanks and kudos, and that you were willing to say, you know what? Okay, I can be better.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a discipline to find a mentor. I feel like you have to ask somebody to do the job.
Yeah.
And then they got to be willing to do it. I have a good friend of mine who is a drug addict, and he went through treatment, and he went to several treatment centers. It was until he decided that he needed to make the change. And he and I are really good friends, and I talked to him, and there's something about that. It's just a lifestyle change. You have to decide yourself. Yeah. Until you decide. There's it's not my saying. I can't remember where I got it. I think it was a Chuck Swindoll book. There was he didn't have the name of the person, but it was a psychologist. He said the only people that he can't help are the people that blame others and people that wallow in their own self-pity. He said, until you can own your own mess, you can't be helped. Until you own your own junk, you gotta have the courage to stop blaming others, because if it's somebody else's problem, then it's not yours. And if you're feeling sorry for yourself, well, then it's not yours either. And it's hard to move past that, and it's a discipline, and it takes time. But if I just remind myself, am I blaming somebody here? Is this a problem? Is this something that I can do? Is there something I can do to change my outlook on what this is? Do I have to be right in this argument? Do I do the right thing anyway, even though it might cost me money? All those things. It's a different filter when you start thinking about it that way, and it leads probably more often than not, I would hope, to better results. And it lends itself to supporting the relationships. Yeah. You don't violate the relationships very often when you're doing it that way.
And I think we all have standards that we hold for other people, and maybe we don't always recognize them for ourselves, but then you're adhering to your own standards, which creates pride and confidence. I love how you do it, Michael. When Okay, when you're not working, what are you doing for fun? What fills you up outside of the job, outside of what we do?
Cooking. And I know it's close to the what we do, but it was something that I fell in love with a long time ago. Not early. I mean, I was a terrible cook. All we have to do is ask Amy next time you see her about my jambalaya experience in Lincoln. Had that been the measuring stick about whether or not I should pursue this hobby at all, it would have ended that night.
That wasn't the same night Lincoln asked you not to come back to school, was it?
Nah, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think they were the same time. A lot of my failures were spread out. But but what I did do, with being in this industry and the traveling, I became curious about it, and it became a challenge. And when I would see something or eat something, I go, I can do that. And the internet was a wonderful thing because then I could come home, take a look at this. I could see the pictures. I could read the menu and go, okay, this is in there. This is in there. I remember making ravioli one time. There was a Tuscany in Chicago, and they have this pear ravioli, and I couldn't figure out what the nut was in it. So I called them and told them that I was allergic to nuts or to peanuts, and I wanted to know, can you tell me what nut is in there? And she told me it was cashews. And that's how I figured out there were cashews in there. So sometimes I do stretch my morals, but I lie for a good reason. And then having all these friends, so many contacts to be able to, in resources to go to. I got chef guys in the industry that I can call and go, I'm going to try this, and they'll go, no. This is how you would be better. It'd be better if you did it this way. And they'll answer my texts or take my call. And then they want to see the pictures, which I'm terrible at because I tend to drink while I'm cooking. And then I forget to take the pictures. But I'm not a chef by any stretch, in the sense that my presentation is, I would call Northeast Nebraska technique. It just all ends up in the four corners on the plate.
Okay.
And I don't know how to stack things. I don't know how to make things look pretty, but I can make them taste damn good. And that's good. And it gives me a lot of personal satisfaction. There's not much that makes me feel better than to have somebody say that was really good.
Wow.
So so yeah, I'm cooking. I do most of the cooking around here. Amy's a fantastic cook. She does the great home stuff, and I stay away from the pot roasts and that kind of thing. That's her deal, and fried chicken. But if I see something and I'm going to try that. So, and I order ingredients, and I spend more than I should. I've driven 50 miles to go get an ingredient. I get a little anal about it, but it's an expression. I've passed it on to my kids. I think probably the most cherished thing that my daughter wants right now is my recipe file, because I do write them down. And I know, and because I know she wants it, and she keeps telling me you can put it on a Google Drive, and I keep telling her I don't know how to do that. Again, another little lie, but again, it's for a reason. I want her to keep pining for it, because it makes me feel good, and I'm selfish that way.
You know what? I don't know that I'd call that selfishness, or what someone said once. I'm gonna butcher this. They didn't say this. I'm paraphrasing, but we all ought to be, narcissist is the wrong word, but selfish at experiencing life to the full and being alive, experiencing this sense of curiosity and excitement. I mean, talk about passion, and you fired up. You're driving 50 miles to get an ingredient. I think that's one of the greatest gifts.
Yeah, you and me are the only ones. My wife is looking at it going, so then what time are we going to eat? And I said, it's 50 miles down there and it's 50 miles back. It's going to be 2 hours.
Well, come with me, Amy. We'll ride. We'll have a conversation in the car together.
That time she's so mad she needs to stay home. I'll deal with that when I get home.
I love that you have it. In my kids, mine are young. I've got 2 middle schoolers, but I feel like there's a whole host of things we're trying to offer and get them to be able to experience. And one of the biggest things for me, because I didn't really get to experience passion probably till my 30s, but is just that idea of having a spark, something that you get fired up about, something that you just want to go out. I listened to a podcast with Wayne Gretzky, and at 5, he fell in love, and he was skating all day till his feet were frozen, and he couldn't turn it off because he loved it. Like you cooking. And I feel like that's one of the greatest gifts. Maybe it's relationship, maybe it's sales, maybe it's fishing, maybe I don't know what it is for anybody. Maybe it's writing poems, but that idea of finding something you're passionate about is just an unbelievable gift. Zena Dater loves it. Hi, Zena. Hi, Jim Ottmer, Larry Wange. A bunch of people are watching Zena. Hi, Christopher East, Keck and Wange. Way better than Hall & Oates. Oh, snap. By the way, Chris and friends, I don't know if you notice, but there is some subtle intentionality behind our dressing and the way it is tonight. Notice where Michael is right now. I may have walked in and put on a cardigan. Just a side note. First winner goes, first one who gets it gets a prize. I don't know what that prize is because I ran out of water bottles. I have t-shirts. I can send a t-shirt. What was the ingredient, Michael, that you needed? Do you remember? And was it worth it?
No, it was a natto seed, and learning now what I know now, no, it wasn't worth it at all. All it did was change the color. And when I got them home, the damn things were so hard to crush up. I just put them in water and boiled them, and I ended up with the red. I was trying to make red rice. It was firecracker rice. It was a firecracker rice and tequila rice. Why I remember this, I don't know. Maybe it was because of the trip. And I had to run all the way down into to Central Market from way out North Georgetown. And I bought them and took them home. And no, I could have stopped and got some Sazon Goya and called the whole thing.
I love it. I love that you drove 50 miles both ways. Your wife was pissed at you, and it didn't work out. But
I learned.
You learned, right? You learned. It's great.
And I could have gone to the Mexican market. You can get it in a little paste form, and it's even easier to use. But we're not here to talk about cooking. That's what the food channel's for.
But I love what you have. And truth be told, everyone in food service needs what Michael has in cooking. I personally believe we all need a version of that in our own lives. All have something that fires us up, that gets us excited, whatever that is. Start exploring, trying hobbies, just try things. Just, there's someone said once, like, there's a book, I think, like the 30-day challenge or 30-day experiment. Just try stuff for 30 days. And if you don't like it, go find another thing that maybe gets you excited, makes you come alive. And certainly if you can find that within an element of that in your career, Michael loves relationships. He's talked about relationships and mentoring, etc. That's an element that is the gift of food service for him. By the way, John Blizzard wins. Mr. Rogers, Sandy was a close second. John, we're going to connect. I'll get you a t-shirt. We'll do it. Maybe it was the tequila. Who knows? Love to see the questionable morals cookbook. This is Christina. Yeah, me too. I want a recipe. Michael, are you open to sharing one recipe with us? It can be after the fact. We'll put it in this chat.
Yeah, I mean, I can put it up. I mean, it could be the one. I showed the recipe to my son, and it's probably a Midwest thing. But what we do up there is that on Christmas Eve you have chili, and they have oyster stew, which is just garbage. But so rather than oyster stew, we did a clam chowder, and my son loved it so much. We put this about 5 years ago, and it's now his job, and he makes the clam chowder, and it is absolutely out of this world great clam chowder. So, but that's fresh in my mind because we did Christmas Eve, and the reason we did it that way is that was the other day that I went to church when I was young because grandma was going to be there. Went to Christmas Eve service so the soups could be done, and then you came back, ate, and then then there was nothing for the grandmas and the moms and then the kids to have to clean up afterwards so they can get right to the presents and go nuts. So we recreated that again. So we made the oyster stew, and I got a ton of chili if anybody wants some. And that's made with a really nice homemade chili paste rendered down from dried chilies, and that's the base. And yeah.
That's the one I want. I mean, I would take both, but chili, we do a fair amount of chili, and I'm always looking at new recipes. Michael, there's so much we didn't get. We should have a part 2 at some point because there's so many things.
2 years from now, then.
2 years from now, we'll do another one. Let me end with this. These conversations happen. There's this idea that success leaves clues, and often clues that we don't expect to find. under rocks in a field or when someone's driving by 50 miles to get an ingredient they didn't work out. Define, and so many people in the industry coming in their 20s right now, they're coming off the line and they realize, you know what, I can have be on this side and have holidays with my family and make chili, or people coming in from outside the industry, from wherever. We see a spark in someone in a different industry and someone hands them a card like you were handed back in the day, and they end up here and they're wondering, what does success look like? At the end of this, what do I hope to have accomplished? So could you, and everyone's definition is different, but what's your definition of success after having been in around for a while?
Well, that's it. It is different. And it's really, to me, more of an outlook of what success is. Look, I don't drive fancy cars. I don't live in a great big giant house. We've lived a humble life, probably some to the chagrin of my bride. A faster car is not good for me. Is not what other people love them. And I got a boss who happens to love fast cars, and you could give me 10 Ferraris and I wouldn't be any happier. I'm quite disappointed that Ford has decided that they're not going to no longer make the Fusion, which now causes me to figure out what kind of vehicle I'm going to have to drive in the future. So I haven't yet addressed that. I'm ignoring that pain, but eventually I'll have to make that decision.
We'll get through it.
Success is, I think, if you can figure out a way that whatever it is that you're doing, that you can find joy in it, not just in the good stuff, but find the joy in the difficult part of it too. If you find yourself joyful, then you're successful. And it can ride along any financial line. It can ride along any professional line, but it's a mindset of where a person is at and how they're processing where they are, where they've been, and where they're going. And if it still looks like you're moving forward and you find joy in it, I encourage people to try to do their ever-loving best to find balance through your faith, your family, and your work, and your friends. There needs to be a healthy balance in there. If any one of those gets skewed too much, then you're out of balance and it's difficult to find that joy. There's a discipline in that. But you surround yourself with good people, read some good books, read stuff that matters, and it can be fiction. There's a lesson in the story, and there's a lesson in your story. So find out what that is, find joy in it, and it's not always going to be easy. But even in some of the most difficult times, when I was at my friend's memorial service for their mother, it is a incredibly difficult time. But at the same time, there was joy in that life and celebrating that life, and to see what the future is going to be with the next generation behind her, and Jerry and Kathina and the boys and the people that we got to make laugh at when everybody got together. There's joy in that. You can find it. It doesn't always have to be a grim deal, and you're going to get knocked down, and that's okay. Learn from it. I learned that I don't have to go pick up a natto seed. That's a small one, but I also learned that a hard lesson, in that I do need people. I really need them to find joy. I was not a joyful person then. I'm more joyful now.
I believe.
Still get a little frustrated, but I don't yell. I don't get mad, really, except for maybe here once in a while because my wife doesn't understand things. But and I'm sometimes not very good at explaining it. And I take shortcuts with her, probably a little more, admittedly, probably a little more careful, at work and with friends and that kind of thing. Probably take my wife for granted that I always know that she's going to forgive me.
That feels relatable in home, where the safe place. That feels relatable.
So yeah, I think if you take the moment to look where you're at and find joy in it, then you can chalk it up as a successful day. And just keep doing it over and over again.
Michael, I love those words of wisdom. This is our friend Bolt out west with Avanti. Great chat tonight, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you for your honesty, as always. Thanks for sharing the lessons you've learned. You talked about relationships a lot. At one point, you believed you didn't need them. You were wrong.
Oh,
And
wrong.
when you were able to acknowledge that and say, you know what, I do need people in my life. I do need to collaborate better, that you found more joy. You found more connection, that you have a better experience having done so. And here's what I got to tell you, my man. There's a lot of people that feel the same way about you. I don't know if you've watched these till the end, but now's the fun part. You need to know that as much as so many people have made a difference in your life, so have you in a lot of people's lives. Look at this, all these people. Amen. People bring us joy. Not everyone understands that. No, but hopefully we find it. That's our buddy Wade Kaler. Wade, are you kidding me? Yo, brother, Dave. David Maxwell. This is so amazing. Rodney, great outlook. Thanks for sharing. Michael, I've got a few friends. I'm going to read you a couple just lines from people who said thank you to you and the difference you've made. Tracy Mulqueen from FIDA. Working with Michael Keck was one of the most positive, productive, and professional experiences I have ever had. Michael believes in supporting creativity, innovation, and pushing new things forward while supporting everyone really well along the way. He never avoids the hard stuff, but rather accepts and embraces it, seeing that as part of what you have to do in order to make good things happen.
I must not have made her mad.
Well, you didn't curse when you were with her.
One time.
Which was amazing. And I would echo all of that. You were an incredible leader in one of the toughest times ever. Your peace, your patience, your willingness not to yell.
I bet Stafford can't make the same. He isn't going to be able to make the same claim.
I don't know. Love these words about how we get joy in this industry. You know it, Leanne. Jim Courtwright with Well Built. Mike and I have been best friends ever since we met in 1994. While he's terrible at golf, he's great at fishing. The guy's amazing when it comes to catching fish. He's got the magic touch, and I'm grateful he's my friend.
He didn't mention the donkey?
There's a donkey story?
I have a donkey. People might not know that, but I know two people who do. Jim Courtwright comes all the way down here for a visit. Him and his wife come by because they want to see not to see me, not to see Amy. I want to stop by and see the donkey.
What's the donkey's name?
Donkey. and then Mike Whiteley retired, and he and I have been talking for about a year, and he was asking me about, he wanted to do a quick getaway that I guess retired people like to do, is bolt out, get away from everything. So they decided, him and Ray decided to come down and hang out in Fredericksburg for a couple of weeks. So the Sunday night before the Monday heading out to NAFM, Mike had told me that he and Ray want to come over and see the donkey. Again, not to see me, not to see Amy, but to see the donkey. So yeah, if anybody wants to come and see the donkey, you're certainly welcome to come down and meet Donkey.
I can't wait to meet Donkey someday and have some clam stew or some chili or whatever it is.
No, it's chowder.
Chowder, clam chowder. My bad. Clam chowder.
But people, when the COVID thing was going on, I'd be in the house making phone calls and the dogs would start barking. So I would go outside, stand on the back deck. And when the donkey sees me, she lets out this huge bray. And then I have to, I probably a half dozen times I had to, because I'd hear somebody go, "What in the hell was that?" But no, that's my donkey.
That's Donkey.
And who gets to say that?
Not many people, Mike. I love that we know this now. Chris Parnell has a story. We might have to leave that one for the next one. I can't wait to hear about how you got T-boned twice in the same day. Or, yeah, that would be a fun one.
Yeah,
that will be a fun one.
That's a true story. I got ran over twice in the same day on my birthday.
Well, I guess it's a testament to Ford Fusions that they hold up well.
Oh, no, I was on the bike on the first one. They got run over on a bike.
Oh my God.
Yeah, save that one. It's a good one.
Oh my gosh. I'm glad you're here and that Donkey's with us too. Jen Ward from Atosa. I truly admire and think the world of Michael. He is a true leader, a partner, and a family man. And Amy is his better half, who is invested in continuing to advance our industry and bring the next generation of talent into food service. Love it, Jen. Our buddy Jeff Griffiths. Michael is one of my most sincerely caring friends. He pours his full heart. I love that word heart about you because that's true. Into his personal relationships, his business relationships, and into being a food service industry leader. More than anyone I know, Michael continuously works on both personal and professional development. Michael's legacy will be that he led with a combination of humility, expertise, trustworthiness, and a sincere care for others. Really great words, Jeff. And all of those resonate so well. And lastly, your buddy Dave Stafford. I've gotten to know Mike over the years, through the association of our companies. I'm glad to say that we're no longer just working associates, but that we've developed quite a friendship. Mike has an incredible sense of humor. He's a pleasure and just so fun to work with. We often end up connecting and talking industry challenges and solving the world's problems late into the evening until our wives have to tell us that it's time to hang up.
Yeah.
During the challenges of the last few years, it was really nice to have someone to just talk to and commiserate with in an honest way. We have a mutual trust with one another, and I always trust that whatever we say to each other stays there. I trust this man implicitly. These are pretty cool words, Mike.
I feel the same way about everybody. Everybody on that list and many more. The trust thing is important to me. I tell people that I start with trust. The moment that I meet you, no matter who you are, total stranger, I will start with trust. And it's up to them then at that point to violate that. And because if you start that way, it does make it easier for the relationship to blossom.
Yeah.
If I start with not trusting, then that it takes more time, and you might not get to where you need to go. That cynicism and that closing down, it inherently happens. So I start with trust. Maybe even and that's not always worked out, for the best. Maybe in a certain situation, but my conscience is clear. So, and then I find joy in that.
I think it's brilliant. I love this. Zena says, start with trust. I don't think I've ever even thought about the idea, but I think probably in my own life, and maybe a fair amount of people, you start with a level of distrust and you earn it. Hey, if you want me to trust you, you'll earn it over time. I'll know. It's such a different place to start from, to say, I'm going to start by trusting that you are who you say you are. You're going to do what you say you're going to do. And then if we lose that because of your actions. I think it's pretty
and you forgive people, but you don't forget what they've done.
Yeah. Yeah. Forgiveness is another one we can talk about at some point. Have enjoyed all of this. Our buddy James Overton. I'm missing reruns of Frasier right now, but it's more than worth it. Thanks for joining us instead of Frasier. You're right. You can recatch those.
I've seen a lot of James Overton in my years. That's another story someday I can tell.
What a good man. Listen, everyone watching. Well, first of all, Michael, thank you. This was every bit of what I knew it would be and hoped it would be for our community. You are, I think Jeff said it, heart. You're a heart on a sleeve. You're 100 hearts on your sleeves. I can't wait to. We need one of your T-shirts with just a bunch of hearts on them instead of cactuses and birds or whatever. Although that's a great shirt. I
was feeling a little prickly tonight.
I love it. It's a great shirt. But you come with your heart, and there's a line I end up using in a lot of writings: the heart of food service, because it's real, and you are a very authentic demonstration of that. So thank you for everyone watching. James, thanks for giving up Frasier tonight.
That's a big deal. I know that. You can record it, James.
I love it. Great conversation. This is Eric Haviland. Eric, thanks for sharing your time, gents. Thanks for joining us. You don't for how they make you feel. Maybe, forget that. Love it. Everyone watch. I have so many notes. I try to summarize. We're in the relationship business. I think about, what did Ray Kroc say? I'm not in the hamburger business. I'm in the real estate business. In a lot of ways, Food service might be equipment, pots and pans and fryers and ranges might be what we peddle, but that's not our business.
That's not it.
We're in the relationship business, and there's not a better business to be in. And truly, I don't believe there's a greater industry to be in if you value relationships. And you look at some of these stories about all these knuckleheads, Whiteley and Jim, all these people coming down saying, I want to see Donkey. Well, of course they want to see Michael, but look what can be cultivated and grown and fostered through the gift of the industry we're in. And that's pretty darn cool. And we all play a little part in making the world a better place to eat.
We do.
I think that's a great line. Food service power.
I don't explain that. I have a colleague that said that one time.
It's okay. I love it. Run with it, and we'll thank them. Who was it? Do you remember who it was?
Jim Collier.
Jim Collier.
That's what. If he stayed in this industry for the rest of his lifetime, he said that's what his gravestone's going to read.
I love it.
He used it in a little bit more grim context.
Listen, friends, thanks for joining us. I hope you're in a great place. You're probably still feeling the buzz of NAFM like we all are, probably still catching up, probably still excited and reminded of why it is such a great industry to be in. Thanks again to the NAFM team for everything you did to make that such a special experience and to bring us all together. If anyone watching finds themselves, we're all coming from different places tonight. We're all showing up from a different perspective of the day. Or of the week or the month or wherever you're at. Some of you are soaring, and I hope this conversation gifted you to new heights. Some are struggling and wondering, I have no idea what it means to wake up in the morning and experience joy. I have no idea what passion feels like, or nothing that would cause me to drive 50 miles for an ingredient just to try. Know that it's okay that at one point Michael didn't, at one point I didn't, and we learn and we grow and we connect ourselves with other people that have those passions or whatever. So know that this isn't the end of where you are, that Michael had challenges, that I've had challenges, that so many of us have, and you keep moving and you keep growing and you surround yourself with people that you want to grow into, and you learn and you read books and you try things and you take classes, and there's a bright hope in front of you. Keep moving, friends. Listen, you're stronger than you realize. And there's a world of possibility. Know that if you need a sense of community, if you need people, certainly they're all around you in what we do. But know that we've got a Facebook group. If you're seeing us on LinkedIn tonight, come join us. It's on Facebook. Go find the group, not the page, and I'll welcome you in. We've got over 2,000 people there supporting each other, offering positive mindset ideas, encouraging one another, pumping each other up, celebrating wins. And if you could use something to be a part of where you feel connected to community, know that you are welcome there. And we'd love to have you. Great chat. Thanks so much for the time. Angel, thanks for joining us. Great show. Never forgetting, for the restaurants, every day is the Super Bowl. Heck yes. Great. Good night. This was fun. David, thanks so much. Everybody, have a great night. We'll see you next week.
See y'all.